The February 19th Palo Alto Public Art Commission. And we'll do roll call. And Dara.
Present.
Nia.
Present.
Amanda.
Present.
And Ben is present. Okay, agenda changes, requests, and deletions. We're going to take non-action item 2 and move that up to after staff comments so that people can make their comments and they can leave and not have to stick around for the rest of the meeting. Any oral communications?
Yep.
Hey, you need a motion to approve the minutes of January 21st.
I motion.
Okay, need a second?
I second.
Any additions or deletions or changes?
We gotta vote to approve
Oh.
minutes.
Don't we gotta have the changes first?
Oh, okay.
Any changes, additions or deletions?
No.
Hey, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, staff comments, Elise?
Okay, my staff comments are brief. So we had Arch Cradle by Mike Sabo was cleaned and had minor restoration work performed earlier this month. See, Nadia's got some images, some before and after images.
It wasn't before one.
So you can see there were some minor issues on a couple of the welding seams that we needed to get taken care of. So Mike Sabo and his team came out earlier this month to address those. And so the piece is now looking much better.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Where's that located?
That is in Mitchell Park. So it's close by the tennis courts there.
That looks great.
And then the other minor item is that we have new signage that we just installed in the lobby, partially in preparation for our opening celebration on March 2nd. I hope everyone will be coming for conversation. So we added the signage for that and replaced the signage for the Sayed Alavi piece in the ceiling. The previous signage was actually in glass, and so it was very difficult to read. So we did it in the brushed aluminum so it would match the rest of the room, and so that just got installed this week as well. And that's really it for announcements.
All right, thank you, Elise.
Is the city hall sign new?
Yes.
I was wondering that too.
Right?
Yeah. I I've never noticed.
Or maybe
beautiful.
they just turned on the light
Yeah.
or something.
Okay, we're going to move on to non-action item 2. This is 693-689 arrested Darrow Road. I hope I said that right. And we have a presentation. Yes. And this is the initial review for public art with the Bowman School project.
Okay, so Mary Beth Ricks, you wanna kick off the
Sure.
presentation? That would be great.
Okay, excellent. I'm Mary Beth Ricks. I'm the head of school at Bowman School in Palo Alto. We're located on Terman Drive, and we recently bought property on Aristidero, just 2 pieces of property away from where we are. And this is John Daisy King. He's our architect. And we are planning to do a public art piece and go through that process. We're hoping to go through that process, so we're seeking your feedback. So I have a little presentation. Our school is a Montessori, you can click through it. So Montessori Elementary School, serving kindergarten through 8th grade. Our expansion will allow us to serve age 3 through age 15, which is preschool through 8th grade. We've been in Palo Alto for 20 years. We started on a picnic table in Mitchell Park, basically, sitting around deciding what would make the best kind of school for kids. And we were housed in Coverly for our first 9 years, and then we purchased our property at Terman. We have a 10-to-1 teacher ratio all the way through 8th grade. We're year-round, so our students occupy the space all year round. They take vacations when they want to and can and need to, which allows for this really nice ebb and flow of our school. And we serve kids from over 30 nations, and as you can see on the slide, we have great teachers and all this good stuff. So we recently bought the property that's 2 doors down from us on Aristidero. It has 2 numbers, 6 689 and 693. And we're merging these lots. If you go to the next slide, yeah, you can see. So there's a cul-de-sac and then a church property, and then the last two pieces before you get to the Hetch Hetchy. So we've purchased that property, and we're in the design phase, and we're meeting with the ARB in March. And we've decided that going through this process would be really in keeping with our school's goals. So the goals for the new site are to include 3- and 4-year-olds. We're also building a STEAM lab. We're calling it the Idea Lab. We're going to have outdoor space for gardens and lessons and all kinds of things. And it's sort of a learning village scale. It's not going to be, it's not going to look like our current building, which we purchased from Hausner. So in meeting those goals, we want to create this 2 classrooms for the youngest kids. We're adding 40 kids, and that's it. So, we've gone through all the traffic studies and everything along those lines. We're also having a wood shop and art studio room on the first floor, and then the science and media lab downstairs. The Sunken Learning Circle, which is a place for kids to go and have cozy environment time. And the whole school can gather there if we needed to, and we could also do small groups. And then science gardens and greenhouse and a gym and just a lot of really nice things. And our 5th goal was very important to us, was just to stay in Palo Alto, which is very hard to do. So our site proposal is going through this process. We're going to combine the 2 lots into one. Just we know that minimizes how much building we can put on the property. We're actually sort of punishing ourselves by doing that because we can put less on the property by merging. But we're really hoping to have this beautiful outdoor space that is indoors and outdoors and open and light and all year round and has this really villagey effect. And to that end, we're going to have a beautiful art piece. So we're proposing to use a limited selection process, and then there's the timeline up there that we hope to use. And then our estimated budget is 1% of the total cost, and that's what our proposal is. And John will speak to the design element of the view.
Okay, so I'm just going to look. There's a number of different drawings. There's a number of different drawings included in the package, but I'll primarily focus on just 2 because I just want to basically give you the character and flavor for the project. So this first one is just an earlier. We're continuing to work on it, but basically it's the same, but elevation from Arastadero. And it sort of shows what Mary Beth had talked about in terms of their goals, was to have a smaller scale residential feel, also with the Montessori education, sort of the historically being housed in homes where it most of the schools started in homes. So it was important to keep that feel to the project. So what we have here in the drawing is we're showing basically 1-story structures along Arastadero Road, a breakup of the massing with basically sort of typical sort of house forms. And it doesn't really show on the slides here, but we're also looking, we're developed it a little further in terms of the siding material being board and batten with a cement plaster base combination to help sort of identify the volumes to the buildings and their functions inside. And then go through, maybe go one more. Okay, so the landscape plan looks a lot nicer than my architectural site plan because it has all the fun stuff on it. But what we're doing here, just real quickly, is sort of the site organization is to have we've got parking in the front off Arastadero. It's one way because of the proposed city improvements on Arastadero Road, the median there. That's changed a couple times since the project started, but we were showing the current one in that one there. But it's basically one way in on the bottom, and then you drive through and exit out at the top. So it's a right in turn and a right out turn. There's no left turns here. Where you see sort of the gray paving pattern in the middle of the parking off the entry there, that's going to be a little raised spot, and that's where the kids who will be attending Bowman's Children's House, which are the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, would be dropped off there. So the rest of the organization of the site is we have the 3 buildings, Bowman's Children's House on the bottom there, the Idea Lab, which has the science, science, media, and art, wood shop and art, thank you. And that building, and then the gym is towards the rear of the property, primarily because it requires a higher volume because of the youth basketball court that's going to be inside there. But positioning in the back helps keep the scale of the project down smaller. And then in between the gymnasium and the Idea Lab is, the Idea Lab is actually a 2-story, but it's 1 story at grade and 1 story below grade. And so we have the learning circle in between the gym and the Idea Lab, which is sunken, and it's basically a multi-use space. We're looking at doing a very organic form to it, and breaking up the spaces to it, so kids, you can handle. If you were doing a presentation to a larger group, you can do that and you can sit comfortably. But also the kids can, if they want to work on their own or in small groups and so on, there's a lot of nice little niches and different elevations to sit at and meet at in that space, while also providing a nice connection to the below grade level. So, if you're downstairs, you're not going to realize that you're downstairs. So that was the goal. The rest of the landscaping, the paving pattern, what we're showing there is basically some variations of paving patterns, being more organic in flow, trying to show how you might circulate between buildings. The playground area for the Bowman's Children's House is along the south side, along the Hetch Hetchy, and again, it's more of an organic, natural play structure and area for the kids. And then, we've talked about possibly having some kind of artful representation of drainage on the site. So we have a bioswale on the very front of the property, which is that darker green on the front. And so we're talking about since the property will be draining from the rear to the front, is trying to expose some of that runoff and have it go through the property so the kids can see it and actually sort of activate it that way and make it exciting for them. So.
And so the art proposal on this map, the artist just put or the landscape architect put a placeholder, but we're not married to that specific placement.
Yeah.
And that's part of our part of this process, is to determine where in the front, outside the gates, so we could have a public piece of art that is visible to the public to meet the requirements and accessible to the public.
Yeah.
Is the placeholder the red?
Yeah, right
Yeah.
now they have that as a placeholder, but we're open to suggestions. Is it on a wall against the Hetch Hetchy? Is it on the front? Is it somewhere interesting and amazing? Is there also a piece of art that matches it at our current site, which is basically 2 doors down the road?
And I say there's other drawings, elevations, and so on of the buildings, which I'm happy to talk to you about if you have any questions about. I think between the site plan and the street elevation, it gives you a good sense of what the project's going to be like.
So I'll just remind the commission that this is an initial review, so there's no action that needs to be taken this evening, but the applicants are simply here to gather input and suggestions on potential sites and types of work that might be appropriate. And I also just want to make sure, it was alluded to in the presentation, that the commission's aware that at next month's meeting there will be an item for the kickoff of the municipal percent for art project for that larger Charleston or Rostradero corridor. So there will be something that will, potentially impact this space or this corridor as well. So just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Thank you, Elise. Hey, thank you very much for coming tonight. Any questions from the commissioners?
I mean, I guess the first one, I keep thinking of the placement there seems less public because you'd have to drive in, and I feel like as a non-member of that community, I wouldn't know and would never ever drive in. So seems less public. I felt like the other ones you started to mention, it's hard to tell because of trees and the bioswale and so on there, but then that pedestrian path seemed like a good idea. Were you leaning to anything like in particular, like because there was something in the timeline, like would the kids be involved in making it, like there's a mural or something?
In the past, we have had for the last 20 years, we bring in both artists and musicians to work with the kids and do all kinds of really great things for sort of a residency program. So definitely having the kids involved in doing something, and we've done something similar to that last year.
What did you do?
We had an artist come in and spend the week with us, and then one of their jobs, one of the projects he did with the kids was the 7th and 8th graders took from your website the restrictions for public art, and their assignment was to create something to pretend submit to you. And so they've kind of gone through that bit of that process and gotten feedback, and it would be really interesting to use them in some way, shape, or form, if it was their idea or somehow use the children. That would be really in keeping with the spirit of our school.
Yeah.
Now, will there be, oh, sorry. Are you?
No.
Oh,
Okay, that's one more, I guess. Thinking of that Hetch-Hetchy pedestrian trail, like,
Right.
is it a gate or fence? Like, what separate? Is that what you're gonna?
Yeah.
Like, what separates
Yeah,
the
so-
school from that?
John, do you want to speak to
Sure.
that?
So for the primary play area, we're going to need a secure fence.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're anticipating basically sort of where the word hetchy or hetch is, from that corner where the green of the playground sort of ends up at an angle up on the page would be a higher fence. So that's our sort of security. to
And what
keep-
kind of material is it?
We haven't really looked at that. I mean, I guess we're open to what we would do, but all right now I'm looking at it as probably a 6-foot high fence. The fencing from that point, that same point down towards Arrastadero, we've talked about, something low just to help differentiate the space, but having it more permeable. I think we were even suggesting that we show a little connection between the Hetch-Hetchy and the path that comes off Arrastadero around the parking to the front of the building, is making a connection there so pedestrians and bicycle riders coming down the Hetch-Hetchy trail could come in on that. So, we're looking at that corner of trying to develop that. We're also showing how it connects possibly to the bike. The city is proposing in the medium sort of a bike safety zone for left turns, which is sort of that notch in the median there. And I think they were thinking mainly for bikes to be able to go make the left turn across the Arrastadero and go up the Hetch-Hetchy trail. But we're also showing that we can show an entrance there for ours. So, I mean, we're looking at trying to develop that in more of an open, nicely, and attractive, but making it work with the context that we have, the trail, the left turns on the bicycles, and so on.
Is the trail called the Hetch-Hetchy Trail because there's some sort of connection to the Hetch-Hetchy, like somehow? What is there that?
Actually the water runs underneath it.
Underneath
they have to have,
it?
Yeah, they have to have access above the airspace. We can't put trees that lean over. There's quite a few rules about what the Hetch-Hetchy. But it is a pedestrian path that's really well used, and we'd hate that's landscape that would be a shame to go to waste.
Yeah.
So that's one
Yeah.
idea that we had. To put
Yeah,
something
it just
on
seems
that side.
really neat. I used to work for a watershed association in Boston, and they did a lot of public art. And one of the things on a bike trail that we had in Somerville, near outside of Boston, it was Mystic River, and the Mystic River is like many of these, like lots of it's hidden, you can't see it. And so they had painted the the watershed, the lakes and everything onto the bike trail, and it was really cool. And so that's why I was asking, either like fence or the bike trail, and you have STEAM going on, so you have science and technology. Something with painting involves the students. It kind of like ties everything together.
Was it wayfinding or just artistic?
No, but it just sort of showed you, because the river was such a hidden one that it just sort of like placed you the idea. No, because it was the whole, like for this stretch, it was probably only this long, showed you the entire watershed itself. So like you might be the lakes down there, but that's covering. Yeah, so just sort of visualizing something that wasn't there. Yeah.
Sure. And something different that we don't have in the community,
Yeah,
right?
and so you could show that whole like connection, and I don't know, I like that, and you have all those themes running through your school environment and science and art. Yeah, and I love the idea of having the kids involved.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
And something, we're also talking about having something interactive that ties in with our other site.
Uh-huh.
So that's
Sure.
the challenge we're having.
Yeah,
is to
will
keep
they be
them-
able to, will you be able
They'll walk back and forth. Obviously, the first grade through 8th grade needs to walk back and forth
For
on
the
a schedule
lab
for the
and-
lab and the things.
Yeah.
But just to have some way to know, like, oh, those are really the same
Yeah.
company. It's the same school. It's the same entity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And maybe some interactive piece.
Right.
Interactive's always extra great. So hands-on, something they can touch or has some texture.
Yeah.
But we're not the artists. So.
Right.
Yeah, Neil?
Have you been in touch with, first of all, thank you. This is really cool because I went to school in those areas. And so it's kind of nice to see it develop again. I really liked also the idea that Dara mentioned about doing something along the trail. And then I'm also wondering, I know with the church, I don't know if we've been talking a lot here about benches, and I'm thinking that could be an interesting way to kind of connect the spaces, having the different benches, and the kids can even decorate them. But that way also for pedestrians, it could be nice if they're walking and want to take a break and
Yeah.
look at Arastradero.
They do that. We actually have a bench that's on our property that is in our parking lot that our woodshop kids made. And in the evenings, there's an elderly couple that sits there while they walk their dog every evening. So that really resonates. I think the neighborhood would really like something like that.
Anything else, Neil? Amanda?
I was just going to say that I really like the idea of something along that pedestrian trail, especially just avoiding, I don't know, I have young children, and so the notion that like you have to enter into the property to see something kind of like makes me nervous from a security standpoint. So if it's already along the trail to satisfy the public requirement of it, it feels a bit better. And thank you so much for coming. It's really exciting.
Yeah, you answered partially one question I was going to have. How are you going to tie the two parcels together?
Right.
How much of a distance is between the two parcels?
176 foot steps of mine. It's a 4-minute walk.
4 minutes. Okay. And there's what, residential
There's
housing
a
between
cul-de-sac first, and then there's the church, and then there's this property.
the two? Okay.
So if they didn't want to cross the street that covers the cul-de-sac, they could walk around the cul-de-sac and go this way. They also can go back behind Sherman Fields and take the Hatchachi Trail all the way around. That takes 20 minutes. It goes into Los Altos and back around.
Okay.
So there's 2 ways for them to get there.
Okay. And
But yeah, the challenge is we didn't design and build that building, and it's a little more modern than what we're looking at doing and what our own aesthetic is. So we're just trying to figure out a clever way to
tie
sort of
together,
tie them in. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I like your use of STEAM instead of STEM. I think the A is very, very important.
The A is very important to
Very
us, too.
important part. It makes a whole rounded child, an adult, as they grow into adulthood. I think that's great. And just a point of curiosity, he says year-round, the kids can take vacations when they want. Is there a minimum amount of days they have to attend
Yes.
school? Is it
They need to be there 180 days,
Like the
just
state-
like the public
the state.
school, the state
Okay.
requires.
Okay.
But we're open 252,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's impossible to miss that because that's 70 days off or something. So no family has that much PTO at their work, right? So it's really hard. In the 20 years I've been there, since I was there since day one, we've never had anyone close to not meeting that 180 days.
All right, great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this project. Let's see what comes out of it. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the architect and the artist that you select comes up with.
Do you have
It's
any
gonna be-
advice for us on the selection process or things that have
No,
really
it's
gone
just,
well? Or
I think,
not gone
you know,
well?
what you put out a call and pick the one you think is going to be the
Okay.
best suit your needs.
Excellent.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I really like the idea of involving the kids. I think that they'll take care of it, and I think the community will respond well to it.
Now, there's a public art project in San Jose, the Ice Center, which Joe Sam did the figures on the front of the ice, and he, all the kids that they're skating there, he got them to make drawings and stuff.
fantastic.
And then that's what he incorporated in, and that's what those figures
Oh,
are on
interesting.
the front of the
Oh, great
Ice
to
Center.
know.
So
He's a great
that's
artist.
one way to,
Yeah.
and his, those have been made into little pins, and they're sold at Smithsonian and so.
Oh, nice.
And that sort of stuff, so.
Good to know about that.
There's always ways to involve the kids, and I think it's a
Yeah.
great idea. And it gives them ownership
Absolutely.
of their school, even more than just going there. Okay, well, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening.
Maybe you can set the trend for involving the rest of our children.
We're in the
Well,
first
we've been going over to the little museum since we were at Kimberly. We used to take the bus
So they had a bunch
to the
of kids.
museum with the
Yeah.
book program.
Their favorite place.
You ready?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sounds like a neat-
Okay, the next item is the collection assessment. And review the collection assessment provided by ARG and allocate funds in the amount of $10,385. The remaining murals in the collection assessed. Elise?
Sure. So there are a couple of copies of this second phase of the collection assessment on the table, and a digital version was sent out to you earlier today. We apologize for not getting that to you sooner. It's in the same format as the phase 1 assessment, so they've been very consistent. The idea, as you may recall, is that by the time we complete all 3 phases, we will have a complete assessment of the entire collection, a permanently cited collection, so that then we have a clearer picture of what maintenance is required. We can create a maintenance calendar, and we can better forecast what our maintenance funding needs will be. The other advantage to having this final step completed is that with the master plan and a revised de-accession policy, then it would be a suitable time for the commission to look at the collection and evaluate whether or not there are some pieces in the collection that may be worthy of considering for de-accession. So this is phase 2. It's in the same format. Essentially, it covers all of the permanently cited artworks other than murals that were not done in phase 1. So the only remaining piece for phase 3 would be the murals that were not done in the very first one. So the phase 1, we took some of the projects we were, quite frankly, the most concerned about. And so there were a couple of murals, there were a couple of different kinds of works in there. So this completed the other permanently cited pieces, and then phase 3 would be the remaining murals. And if there are questions about what pieces fall into what phase, Nadia has the list and can address some of those questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? How many murals are we talking about in this particular phase?
Right, so the consultants will be looking at 13 murals as part of the phase 3.
Right.
And 2 murals were assessed, surveyed during phase 1.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
So, Dara was just, she just noticed that one of the pieces here, the brilliance, it says that the treatment priority is medium to high. And we just put it, it's fairly new. And so, I guess my question is, going forward with works, are we going to be looking at that, or is there a way to figure out what the treat? Because that's, the fact that it's a fairly new piece and that it needs to be treated.
Right, and if you read the report, it mainly has to do with plant material, and that's been addressed.
Okay.
So there was some plant material encroaching on the sculptures, and a couple of those that are under the trees tend to get sap more frequently.
Okay.
So that's just about stepping that up as far as our coordination with our grounds crews.
I didn't look at it.
Sorry, I just...
No, it's okay. We had the same surprise, like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait.
You just put that in. Because everything was like low, 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 then medium, high.
Right, and that was really the concern, because if you get vines and plant detritus sort of growing into the mechanicals of the piece, that's not going to bode well.
Yeah.
Any other
It's a good
questions?
thought, yeah.
Hey, can I have a motion to approve the allocation of funds for phase
3.
phase 3?
Hey, motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a second.
Second.
Hey, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those vote no. And, okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And the next item is the Public Art Master Plan. And was it 2 weeks ago, we had the Public Art Master Plan Steering Committee meeting, and we were presented the initial draft plan. And a lot of comments from the committee members came through on this. Amanda was part of the committee. Amanda, do you have any comments about the master plan?
Well, I just wanted to say that I was unfortunately unable to attend the last meeting, but on reading the initial draft from the consultants, it really was really exciting to read, because the comments from the community were, it was just a very active report. And I think that primarily the comments from the community and from staff, from us particularly, come down to specific like game plan, like what is implementable, and making things a little bit more specific than general buckets. So I'm really excited. I think this is great.
Yeah, I was part of the steering committee as well, and I'm excited too for the plan. However, I have some reservations about it. I thought it was a little high level. It didn't really have any attainable goals for us to shoot for in the next 5 to 10 years. One glaring omission, I think, that was pointed out was there was no executive summary, no short description that you could hand out to people to find out what the plan was actually about. And with our public art program, it's really in its infancy stage. We really needed something that is more of a guiding document than to be so high level that it didn't really give us any guidance. And I think that's what we need. So that's what the consultants are going to do, is they're going to write an executive summary and address a lot of the points that were brought up. One of the other points that were brought up too was that a lot of arts related stuff, not public art, but arts related stuff too, was brought up in the comments. And unfortunately, we don't have an arts commission. We have a public art commission, but we don't have an arts commission. So that has to be kind of weeded out from the report too. Because we can't discuss about why don't we have more theater or things like that. That's not our preview. That's what an arts commission does. So that's what Rye and her group would address. So those are the things that we need to also think about and steer clear from just the public art part of that plan. Next month, I think we're going to have a meeting. We may have a special meeting, a working session about the public art master plan and the draft, the rewrite that comes forward, and we want to discuss that. So that's what's in the plans right now in the works for the public art master plan. And Elise?
Well, thank you. I think you summarized it very well. The meeting took place on January 28th, just to be clear. And there was a lot of really good and clear input in that master plan. There were substantive discussions regarding the vision for the Palo Alto program for public art, and the document started with this overarching vision based on what was collected and a sample mission statement, which I will share with everybody now. But then the elements of the plan didn't all necessarily jive with this high-end vision, and so I think the comments were heard by the by the master planners, and they're going to go back and rework it. But I did want to share these with the commissioners and grab any comments you may have, and it will also help inform our discussion on the next agenda item. So. For the vision statement, and this is pulled from the draft master plan that we reviewed, so nothing that's been revised since that time. So for the vision statement, it says the following draft vision statement summarizes the ideas and sentiments that the consultants heard from stakeholders and gathered from planning documents. Palo Alto is committed to consistent and uncompromising quality in its public art. The city will commission and encourage the creation of memorable public artworks and experiences that stimulate discussion and thoughtful reflection, contributing to Palo Alto's identity and sense of place. And then for the, and then they put in a draft proposed mission statement, and it says the Palo Alto Public Art Commission strives to promote the highest caliber of artwork and artist engagement in public settings, stimulate thought, celebrate Palo Alto's character, and enhance civic pride and sense of place. So that's what they've drafted, which the commission, of course, will, decide as this comes back forward whether it's something we want to tweak a little bit or amend, or if this is what we want to adopt. But I wanted to share those with the commissioners and see if there were any comments or thoughts on that.
I love it. I think the language throughout the entire plan is just very, I find it very resonant, and it's very well composed. And I understand the comments about the particulars and, specificity, But I was just really inspired by the whole thing because I feel like lots has been published in our commission, and it's a bit disjointed. Finally, like one very well written, well thought. I found it like a really interesting and good read, which I think is important.
Yeah, it is. It is. And this is going to be our roadmap for the next 10 years. How the public art is going to be happening in Palo Alto. So it's important that we all have our input and say and to shape this document, because this is what we have to. Once it's adopted, it's ours, and we got to go out and we got to work with this, and we got to sell it and say this is what we want for Palo Alto. So that's why it's important that we get everybody's input into this, because you will have to go out and go out into the public with this. You know, this is going to be your thing. Go out and say, this is it. This is what we're going to do.
But importantly, part of that is that it's been a result of like lots of fact finding from the community. So it's not just here it is, the public art program, but here it is, what you say you want.
Right. It's shaped by community input, which is very important because they're the ones that we're serving. Yeah.
So for next steps, as Vice Chair Miyagi mentioned, there's a draft that should be, I think the revised draft will be coming back to staff next week. And so then we're going to circulate to broader staff. Clearly we need some other departments and legal and whatnot to review it, add comments. And depending on how that looks and how many comments, if there's another revision that's required before this draft comes to the commission. But they are scheduled to come to the commission at the March meeting to have that review. And we'll see. We may need to do it as a special study session because that agenda is looking rather full, and we want to make sure that the commission has full time and attention and doesn't feel rushed to really give input on this document before it goes to council. And it's scheduled to go to council in April. So it's something we really urge the commissioners when the packet comes out, if we decide to do a special meeting, to really give it a thorough read and comment. So that would be fantastic. And the tentative date we have for council is April 18th. So it's an ambitious timeline. So a lot of it hinges on what kind of shape the next draft is in. So we're doing our best to move it along, but we're not going to move it so quickly that we get it wrong. So we've come this far, so we want to get it across the finish line and have a product that we're all happy with.
I guess I would just add that before this life, when I worked professionally, I headed an accessories group in a fashion company. And I recognize that we do need everybody's input, but I just want to caution everybody, this is an advisory group of 20 plus people, staff, all the divisions, and what starts as like, I'm sure there's an expression in Italian for this or French or something, like we want a plan, we don't want like after everybody's like cut and like it's just clay back on the platform or whatever. I mean, I really feel strongly about something that is written at a certain level as opposed to, tweaks and changes and cuts, and then all of a sudden it has no, it doesn't resemble at all what it was, and also, just because it's very plainly written that it's not a global document, a holistic document. So I appreciate that the painstaking process of getting all of the input, but I would caution that we keep our eye on the long-term goal of what we want to get to, as opposed to sort of, I'm saying this graciously, but like a lowest common denominator kind of outcome.
You don't want to by committee.
I do have a question. Do you guys think that that the call that we put out matched the outcome? And can you?
Well, from a staff point point of view, there were some things that we haven't seen those elements yet, as far as prioritization of projects, estimated budgets. So we're still waiting for some of those items to come, and we've made it clear that we would want all of those attachments and all of those documents for the commission to review it as a whole. It's really difficult to try and review the main body and not have all the attachments. So the consultants and staff are working very closely together to get some of those things completed. But there were a few things where, and it was expressed by the committee as well, that there wasn't quite enough detail in there to make it actionable, that they seemed more like goals and aspirations rather than actionable items. And I do want to qualify that by saying that, the document is not meant to spell out over 10 years, okay, in year 1, you're going to do these 2 things, because by the time you get to year 5, your priorities may have changed for 7 through 9. But, they expect that once this document is in place, the commission will have a retreat every year to set their work plan for, say, the next 2 years. And using this as the guiding document, and it will call out some specific spaces to work on, but we don't want it to be overly prescriptive, because then it won't be of use to us after several years, because the environment will change. So trying to balance those two, I think it's important, and it's tricky. So we're having a lot of those discussions right now.
Well, I think that's an important point, and I think one of the biggest factors is the economy. What happens with the economy. And like right now, it's starting to boom, so we're going to have a lot of building and a lot of public art. But if we have a bust somewhere along the line, then we got to. That's what our plan is for, to help those ups and downs and how we can do that. And like Elise was saying, to have a work plan for 2 years. So every 2 years we look at it and we make our priorities again. Okay, anything else on the master plan? I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be, it's an exciting time, really exciting time. Hey, the public art program branding, Elise?
I'm cheer for
Oh, no.
So really,
I was about to fall off after I said something about the master plan, so I should probably, that should be.
I wondered what was happening.
Yeah, I just I nearly fell down. That would have been so great on the video, right?
Amanda just fell out of her chair.
Like somebody was watching.
Rewind that.
So really, we put this on the agenda because we're just at square one. So it's really just meant to be an open, exploratory discussion. Branding. So if you think about the Division of Arts and Sciences, the other programs, the Arts Center, the Junior Museum and Zoo, the Children's Theater, and indeed Coverly, they all have logos. And it is time, now that we have our emerging themes and we're starting to work in the master plan, I think we have enough to stimulate discussion about what is our identity and start developing a logo. That being said, we do have certain parameters we have to work within as far as city design guidelines, so it plays nicely with the city logo. But clearly it's not insurmountable because there are many logos in this city.
Look how great these are.
Look how great these are. And actually today I just received an email that the city, because the city realizes there are so many separate design contracts, that they're trying to bundle a lot of these jobs and make sure everyone knows what resources and contractors and designers might be available who are working with the city so that we can do this more efficiently. But we did add some of these just as examples to stimulate some thought about perhaps what do we want our logo to say about our program? So I turn it over to you.
Are you going to say the comments? Okay, give me the mic.
All right.
So I guess my first point of view would be that it should read artistically because we are the Public Art Commission. So with that, I really think that we should go to bat strongly to get as far away as is available to us from the city logo, because the city logo and what that represents is completely different from an art commission and a commitment to art. And the logo is so important, and I know that there are probably 50% that agree with that statement and 50% that don't, or maybe even less than that. But if I look at all of these, every single one, maybe a couple not, but to me, almost every single one, like, it reads art first. And I think that that's so important, especially the use of unconventional color and vibrant color. And maybe that's the way to tie it back to the city through like a different color, but like, so anyway, I would just, and I would, in your vetting of graphic designers and or artists to do it, have it like an arts type mentality as opposed to, you know, like a, you know, there's lots of different fortes people have. So, and then I want to have a t-shirt too.
Okay, tote bag.
Or a polo shirt or something.
Tote bag, yeah.
A tote bag, yeah.
All that.
I agree. I love logos and good ones, and I think everything you said. Because some of these actually I don't love.
I mean, you know, we're
But some and the idea of it being an artist, like to me, well, the personal style I love is that Broomfield one. I think that's hilarious. But I love the black and white drawing, and you don't see logos I think that look like that hand, or like, I don't know, we have a lot of Nikki McClure posters in our house. It's like black and white cut paper that she does, and they're all environmental themes and family or whatever, but it has that kind of style. And then also like the Public Art Omaha and the Urbana Public Arts, like those are bright and pop and look like art too, like less logo-y but more art. And there could be a way of incorporating the tree, because the tree is very pretty but just in a totally different way or style. So yeah, that Broomfield one, I've just never seen a logo like that, and I think it's so funny. The whole thing, I just love it. I don't know. Some of them you're like, but I don't know what it is. You know, it's kind of neat. Like Cedar Falls, like there's their water. I don't like the Pompano Beach, but like, you know, that's on the ocean. So like how they incorporate, like, what is the thing you would incorporate about Palo Alto? I don't know. Is it the tree, or is it something different that we have that others, you know?
I also like the idea of having some sort of tagline. I like the get swept away. I think that's kind of, I mean, I think it's important to have, like, what is something we want people to take away besides just the image? I think it's...
Well, I agree with Amanda. I think the logo is very important. One example is the Nike swoosh. You see that and you know exactly what that's for. So that's why logos are very important. I like the San Antonio one. I think that's very inventive. The pasa that tells you that they're in the Southwest. So I like that. So anything else, Elise, about the branding? Are you looking for somebody from the commission possibly to work with you guys?
I mean, if there was a commissioner who was interested in getting further involved with it, we'd be, you know, happy to have someone to consult on it as we move forward, whether we're vetting designers or something, you know, along those lines. Like I said, we're really just on square one. But if there is a commissioner who wants to be a point person, we're happy to have somebody looped in on this one.
I'm happy to be included.
Okay.
I'm always happy to be involved, but I put my name for everything, so I don't want to hog up all the spots.
No.
It's okay.
Okay, go ahead. Hog away.
Both of you. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
So, I mean, we'll see what kind of shape that
I
looks
just
like,
thought-
but if we've got a couple different portfolios, like, hey, you know, can we just get you all's feedback on this before we proceed, or if we're going to select one? So that would be great.
And this actually, I'm really glad you kind of brought this up, because I would love to have to revisit the Art Center's logo and the Junior Museum's logo.
I'm sure we can pull them
I don't know
up.
if you can, but like, because I'm just seeing when I think of those, I feel like a lot of them look very similar, or at least similar colors.
Well,
So
you have
this reminds me-
PAAC and PAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you want to pull
separate
them up?
those two apart, I think, is
Yeah.
But the Arts Center logo, they underwent a few years ago. They did a like an open community competition, and their logo is in green, so it does read like, you know, the Palo Alto logo. But the Junior Museum and Zoo ones got multiple colors. CASP is blue and gold. Does it incorporate green too? I'm trying to remember.
It's green because it incorporates the tree in a creative way, and it was created by couple of artists actually. So I'm just gonna show it to you what they came up with.
But there are lots of logos throughout the city. So like the
Oh, so
aquatics
they're
department
all
has
tree.
one. You know, it's all different divisions of the city have them.
Because they wanted to reflect the unique history of Coverley and sort of reflect and point out that it's a program that unites multiple studios in the program. So it's a community and it's a city program. So
The tree is fabulous.
and so it was a team of 2 Coverley artists who created a number of renderings, and there was a certain vetting process. And everybody seemed to be in favor of this logo, and it's been adopted and it's loved. Yeah.
I don't like acronyms like that. Like I have no idea what CAPS. I mean, you just said it, but I think there's too many, and this kind of almost means nothing to me if I saw it. I think it's at the bottom of your emails, and I never really realized. But yeah, if we had ours like PAP, I don't know, whatever it would be. I just think that's not good for the outsider. It's only for like insiders who know, and that's not what you want,
Yeah, well, the accent really is on the visual part of the logo, and we were debating.
Yeah,
whether
but I
we
just suggest
should
for ours,
include,
I would just
Pull up the art center
or not, but
like all the other ones we saw mostly spelled it out there, and they were all like pretty clear. I could place what they were for.
That would be interesting if the background wasn't white, if it was a color and everything else was in white.
Yeah.
Like it was like a little,
Yeah.
Or even like the first letter of each word was an uppercase.
Yeah.
I like it though. It's really, it's good.
You can probably just go to their webpage.
I like that public art fund one. It was like
Yeah.
so awesome.
There's really pops.
Yeah.
it's black and white.
And so that has like a tree too. Is that
What is
and tree or a hand?
Or a giraffe.
Animals.
It's open for interpretation.
But yeah, that's part of why they liked it. It was open for interpretation.
Yeah. But at least that spells it out. So if it said like
Mhm.
PAAC, you're like, oh, what is it? Interesting.
Okay, well, I'm glad we have 2 people. I think we need enthusiasm and.
Have we
Yeah,
ever
on that.
have we ever like really had we've had a logo, but it's not like
Well,
it's not
a number of years ago, the commission did get a logo designed. The issue is that none of the commissions have separate logos. It's creating this whole other identity. The logos really need to be with the city programs.
right.
And so, while we still use it as our, on our letterhead for the e-news, the idea is that this new one would be used for the program and the commission, that it would sort of unify all of that. So,
Cool.
and we would want to get it for, use on the website, use on our e-news, that we would get it in a number of different platforms or templates. Yeah.
All right, good.
The tree is kind of a nice metaphor because it's the tree and then you've got like these little
All the
small
branches,
projects that
yeah.
are going on the branches. Yeah.
Any announcements?
Thank you.
None
If
for
you
you?
haven't seen the lab,
Pardon?
if you haven't seen Team Lab, you should go
Okay.
and see.
Oh yeah.
Well worth it.
It's pretty great. And Public Alchemy opens next Saturday as well. What time is that, Nadia?
Right, so we'll be open for the public reception on February 27th, Saturday, from 6 to 8 p.m. And we've been receiving a lot of interest, a lot of inquiries, so I expect it to be a really full, fun show that represents our community. So please stop by. We'll have some appetizers, and most of the Kabila artists will be there. They've been really involved in the process of coordination of this community exhibit, so it should be fun.
And the art drop-off starts tomorrow, right?
Yes, and so we have 2 drop-off days. So tomorrow from 2 to 6 p.m. from 3 to 6 p.m. Excuse me, at the art lab at Coverly. And on Saturday, the artists will be there to accept the submissions from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So participate or share the word.
I have a quick question for you, and maybe it already exists, so I'll just say that. Is there a way that you can go to the Public Art Program website and see a calendar view of all the events going on at, like, for the month?
Not on.
Do you know what I mean? Like commissioners could use it, but also most of our stuff is open to the public, so it would all just be there, like a one place for all the events going on.
It's on the city calendar.
It is.
So everything's on, and when you go to the city's homepage, the calendar's
It's
there,
there.
and we load all of our events on the
Into it.
city calendar.
But you guys don't have like a little separate.
We don't have a separate calendar. And then, of course, if you look at the screens, we have our events coming up on March 2nd for Susan Narduli, and she will be here, so I hope you all can come and meet her, and I think some of her team will be here as well. And we're going to have council members, and the city manager will come speak. Of course, Jim Keene was tremendously supportive of this project all the way through. And we're going to set this up and have some, tables and open up the doors here and have some food and refreshments, and we have some live entertainment we're very excited about. And so here we go. Let's have a party. That's going to be really great. We do have an event page on Facebook, and so please like it, share it,
Okay.
get more people here. That would be fantastic.
I've seen people come in off the street and just go up and look at this. At that. Great. All right, with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you for Susan Narduli's event in a couple of weeks.